Dark academia, huh? An aesthetic romanticizing education that is now omnipresent on the internet. Despite the fact that dark academia is rooted in Ivy style, the thirst for knowledge is as old as civilization, and I think dark academia can be combined with every era. That's where I come in. I'm a big fan of the early 20s and most of all the Edwardian era. Can that be harmonized? I think so. Whereby there is still a difficulty. At least at first sight, dark academia pictures, as one finds them on the web, deal almost exclusively with student life. However, I have a beard, and while it already doesn't fit into the 1920s, I intend to keep it. Nevertheless, beards also don't really fit into the student life aesthetic, unless we want to recreate the 1960s. The point is, there are not only students at a university. Of course, I would like to point out the professors. On them one can imagine the beard much better. Besides, there are two other aspects which fit greatly into this professor picture. My more mature clothing style in the form of three-piece suits and my social awkwardness. Those who have been here for a while know that I studied computer science. Well, that's a department that's not exactly known for its stylishness. But I also studied philosophy. And by the way, dark academia in ancient Greece? Or is only light academia possible because of the white togas? What I actually want to say, I can definitely identify with a lot of non-clothing aspects of dark academia. Two things I tend to dislike though are the exaggerated snobbery and classic literature. Sorry. I'd rather spend an hour on Wikipedia and to trace the history of condenser microphones. Be that as it may, let's take a look at how I would dress professors from different departments using my wardrobe. So, computer science is also not a very old field, but it consists to a significant part of mathematics, the universal language. Other sources of inspiration for dark academia around math are, by the way, A Beautiful Mind, The Imitation Game, and The Theory of Everything. I love those movies. since we are talking about STEM now, is engineering compatible with Edwardian dark academia? I don't know, but I can try. Edwardian menswear is not that different from late Victorian menswear, so it's probably no wonder that this gives off serious steampunk vibes, right? Well, who would have thought? Now, I know academic life is all about living in an ivory tower, but maybe you should get out there to learn something. I mean, someone needs to write the books about flora and fauna, for example, for everyone else to study. And maybe this calls for appropriate clothes. As I said, classic literature is not exactly my passion. Nonetheless, writing a book was an item on my bucket list, and I prefer non-fiction anyway. Do you want to write a book? Non-fiction or a novel? What would it be about? And why not just start? Finally, history. It plays a big role on this channel anyway, and I know that there is not just the history of classic menswear, though it's the most interesting kind of history for me. Now, if you roughly know what people wore in a certain decade, for example, it makes traveling to historic sites even more fun. You can imagine much better how they lived in a castle, or how they hiked. All in all, there's a lot of dark academia aesthetic in my personal style already. I do love earthy tones, textured fabrics, and the intrinsic sophistication. I'm happy to sacrifice at least a part of my soul to the dark soul-eating void that belongs to dark academia too. But not today. Please share this video with your dark academia loving friends, give it a thumbs up, and check out my other videos. Thanks, bye.